Welcome to the Thoughtful Leader podcast. My name is Ben Brearley. I'm a leadership coach and the founder of Thoughtful Leader. The Thoughtful Leader podcast is all about short, sharp leadership advice because thoughtful leadership is good leadership. Welcome to episode 230 of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. In this episode, I'm going to cover the topic of praising employees and whether we are doing it correctly. Now, praising people and giving them recognition is obviously a good thing to do, and you'll see it in many leadership books and courses out there, but I think we're doing it wrong in some cases. So let's look at how praising can be a bad thing and how to do it differently instead. Let's get into the episode right now. So praising employees is a simple action that leaders can take to improve motivation, and it sounds very easy. I simply praise the people in my team and recognize them for their good work and watch morale, productivity, and performance improve. And there's even research that backs that up, and I'll put a link to some of that research in the show notes page as well, thoughtfulleader.com/230. But if only it were that simple. I'm sure many managers have read books and articles about motivation and employee engagement, then started to make an effort to lavish praise on their people. But in some situations, I find it doesn't work so well and may actually have little effect in helping your people feel valued. It may even have a negative effect. So in this episode, I'm going to take a look at some of the situations or conditions where I think praise doesn't actually work so well, so we can start praising our people in a way that really works. Okay, so first let's ask ourselves, why is praising employees important? Now, there are a few reasons why praising employees can be a useful thing to do. Firstly, praising your people can build trust. When you praise or recognize somebody's efforts, you are reducing the perception that you are only thinking of yourself because you're giving credit where credit is due. Now, it can also reinforce your expectations as to what good looks like. You can praise the things you want more of to hopefully improve your chances of seeing them more often, and this acts as a form of feedback that can help your people feel as if they're making progress. Praising employees also has the useful effect of showing that you're paying attention and that you value the work that they do. Instead of your team members being just another cog in the big company machine, your recognition can provide them with a greater sense of purpose, a reason for showing up other than just because they're getting paid. And there is a related article that I wrote a while back now about 3 ways that false praise is ruining your team. Check that out on the show notes page as well. So you might be thinking, what do you mean praise doesn't work? Well, I've noticed that sometimes praise and recognition can fall flat instead of having a positive effect. Some managers have a tendency to read a leadership book which says you should praise your people and then just start doing it with no intention behind it. Now, thoughtful leadership is all about intention. So now I'll take a look at some of the situations where I've noticed praise failing to have the desired impact, and then we can be a little more intentional about how we use it in the future. Now, trust is really huge in leadership. When you don't have a trusting relationship with your team members, you might find that your praise doesn't carry much weight. Now, one of the biggest factors that erodes trust is self-interest. Showing too much self-interest means that people might perceive you as being more concerned about yourself than for the people around you. Now, if your people don't trust you because they think you're self-interested, they may believe that any praise or recognition is simply a tactic, a hollow statement designed to manipulate them into working harder or doing what you want them to do. Now, another important ingredient of trust is credibility. If you aren't perceived as a credible source of feedback or recognition, then your team may regard any praise as empty and meaningless. Now, if you've ever been praised or recognized by someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, you'll know exactly what it feels like. So for guidance on how to build trust in your team, you can also read the related post, Start Being Trustworthy for Your Team, Here's How. I'll put a link to that in the show notes page as well. The other thing to consider here is that praising employees is less effective for trivial tasks. Have you ever had someone say you did an amazing job for something that was quite simple and then tell you that over and over again? Now, it's nice to receive praise, but only when it's actually meaningful. It's important to genuinely recognize people's contributions for great quality work or for the effort they put in, particularly if they deliver the work using unique skills and experiences they bring to the table. Praising the small things too often can just become white noise if we're not careful. Now, praising employees is also worthless when it's not specific. Specific feedback is obviously more valuable than general statements. So when you say something like, "Great job," well, that's nice, but it doesn't tell me what I did well or what part of it was so good. Without specifics, people may be confused about what you really thought was good about it, especially if they don't think the work was such a big deal themselves. And that relates to the point previously, which is all about whether it's for a trivial piece of work or not. Some people have been working in their profession for such a long time and have really good skills. So when you praise something that you think is good, they might still think, well, that's not a big deal. So being specific about what you thought was good can go a long way to helping the feedback be a bit more valuable for them, because you don't want your people rolling their eyes at you when you give them a piece of recognition or praise. Now, a lack of detail in praise or feedback means you're missing an opportunity to highlight what stood out for you and therefore reinforcing what you'd like to see more often. When delivering praise, take the time to be a little more intentional about providing some details. So you might think about, what was it about the work or the effort that was so good? Or was it the technical skill that resulted in excellent quality? Or was it perhaps the manner in which the work was completed that really caught your eye? Now, maybe the person worked well under pressure or communicated really effectively or resolved a conflict in a difficult situation. Now, if you can't pick out the specific aspects that were praiseworthy, then your attempts at recognition could be in danger of being a little too general to make much of an impact. And if there's nothing that stands out, perhaps you'd be better off waiting until you can find something that would be more valuable to mention. And you can always check out 10 simple and effective tips for giving feedback on the show notes page as well. That's a good one with a few tips specific to the feedback problem or challenge. Now, the last one I want to raise here is that praising employees can backfire when presented in the wrong forum. So think of the quiet achiever who does great work without fanfare, or the outgoing life of the party type who likes to be the center of attention. Now, they're vastly different characters, but I'd argue they both want praise and recognition. It's the preferred method of delivery which is likely to differ. Now, some people appreciate a private thank you to recognize their contribution, and others enjoy the heightened status of being recognized in front of their peers. So take some time to think about which method of delivery is likely to feel best for your team members. You don't want your praise becoming a stressful or underwhelming event for your people. So the point here is, we want to get the basics right before we focus on praise. All your efforts to praise and recognize your people will be for nothing if you don't get the basics right. So what do I mean by the basics? Well, the basics I'm referring to here include factors like team members being fairly paid. Looking at the market rates and the industry and their peers, people need to be fairly paid. Otherwise, your efforts of praise will fall flat because they just won't be motivated at all, and they'll be perceived as being treated unfairly. Another basic factor is a functional, safe work environment and also reasonable workloads and stress levels. Now, these are all factors in motivation theory that are known as hygiene factors. So if you don't get these basic hygiene factors right, the chances are your people are going to be cynical about any attempts for you to praise them. So you really want to start thinking about whether those things are in place in your workplace. Because when people start to resent or feel cynical about their role or their working conditions, I've found that praise has very little effect on morale and motivation. So praising employees is the easy part, but fixing deeply entrenched workplace problems is hard. So let's not pretend that praise is a silver bullet that will address all our motivation problems. It's simply one action you can take to help your people feel valued and to recognize their contributions. Now, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. When has praise fallen flat for you? You can leave a comment on the show notes page, thoughtfulleader.com/230, and let me and all the other Thoughtful Leaders know. It'd be great to hear from you. And don't forget, if you think I could help you with a leadership challenge or a goal you're trying to reach, you can apply for a complimentary coaching session. You can do that on the show notes page as well, thoughtfulleader.com/230. Obviously, I can't coach everyone who applies, but if you don't get your application in, you'll never know. Okay, thank you for listening. Once again, keep up the thoughtful leadership. Praise your team, but do it in the right way. And I'll be back next week.